Good evening.
Good evening and welcome to the CASAA update for the week of 3/7/2016. How are you this week, Alex?
I'm home.
You're home. Yay!
Home.
You had a busy week.
I've been home for all of 24 hours. It's
Oh,
great.
no. How's Detroit?
It was good. It was a good event. For those that don't know, I guess I probably haven't posted a whole lot about it. I do tend to be a little lame at social media. But I was in Detroit at the VPX show,
All right.
um, the Vapers exhibit, I
Mm-hmm.
believe. Um, and it was good. I specifically went for one B2B day and one consumer day.
Right.
But the B2B day started off with like a 2 hour kind of um, they called it Vaping Academy, and most of it was geared towards business owners, things like um, you know 15-20 minute presentations about how to manage your email database, how to use that to make it effective. There were some guys from credit card processing and stuff, and then there was me.
Mm-hmm.
But my the point of my talk was to ways in which retailers can engage consumers, and I had a PowerPoint presentation with me. I have put up a PDF version of that in our Google Drive.
Cool.
Um, and the way to get to that, it's a bit.ly link. I'm going to spell it out, and I'll put it in the links, the notes of the podcast. But it's bit.ly /CASAA flyers. Um, so if you wanted to check that out, it's it's just a PowerPoint, so it doesn't really stand well on its own.
Right.
A lot of the content was me talking, but if you want to check it out, it's up there. And of course, some other bit.ly links are in there that are useful. But going forward, it was one of these things, that I brought up was, this is relatively easy for me to do, is to put together some sort of presentation and throw it up on Google Drive. And there's plenty of business owners out there that have, a big monitor or TV screen or something in their shops. And if you want to use that to be broadcasting information about CASA or calls to action or other things, feel free to reach out and let me know, and I can develop something, maybe tailored to specifically what you want. And, that kind of helps us produce content that people can use to engage consumers. Um, so that's just an option that's out there. And this is kind of the theme of me going to these things going forward is, you know, it's great to be there and speaking to consumers. It's their interests that we represent,
Right.
but probably even more importantly is our ability to reach business owners,
Mm-hmm.
because they're the ones that are on the front lines of this stuff, and they have more opportunities, different opportunities to engage consumers than we do. So
Right.
it's just really important to be able to address them. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times, they tend to be a lot more engaged in this because they actually have money. They're people have sunk an awful lot of money and blood and sweat into their businesses to
Yeah.
get this going.
Mm-hmm.
So they're looking for whatever avenue they can find to protect their business. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, engaging your customers is one of those avenues. So um,
Yeah.
yeah, looking forward to it. Um, so the other thing that, well, just before we get to next Monday, and I'm like, oh yeah, we went to this other event. Um, Julie and I are going to be in Tampa this weekend. I'm flying down there. We're flying in on Thursday, and
Mm-hmm.
there is an invi in sorry, I can't talk. I had like a whole bunch of pizza, so now my brain doesn't work properly. Um, there is an industry advocacy dinner. Kevin usually puts these on the Thursday before the event. So
Okay.
if you're listening and you are a vendor that's going to be at the event, I strongly recommend attending this little get together. The last one we did was sort of an informal chat. You know, we had a panel of people up there. I was there,
Right.
um, and some other people from Safata and A Billion Lives and some of the Smoke Free Association. So it's just a panel of the people working in advocacy and industry associations to sit down, relax, ask some questions, get some answers. It's a good time. So I'll be participating in that on Thursday. Um, and then, yeah, it's the Vaping Convention Circuit in Tampa,
Okay.
and we'll be going to that. So that's the fun stuff. I got to meet some people that I have only. I'm not going to give everybody shout outs. That's weird for CASAA to do, but um, I did get a chance to meet people who I've only known through Twitter or otherwise, mostly
Mhm.
just Twitter or Facebook, and it's really awesome to have met them. I'm super happy to have met some people, and I Detroit is actually at least the where I was. Maybe it was
Mhm.
just being around a bunch of vapors. I don't know, but everybody was really friendly. I don't know why maybe it's the cold weather or something. Maybe I expected everybody to just be kind of grumbly and like you know. But I was pleasantly surprised. So thanks to the city of Detroit for uh, just generally being swell people. That was a good time, and I really enjoyed myself. But I'm back in New Jersey, so you can't live the fantasy for forever.
Aw.
Um, I did so okay, so that's the fun stuff, but then there's good news. We got some good news last week. Um, the Utah tax bill
Mhm.
HB 333 failed.
Mhm.
So that's great
Excellent.
news. Yes. There's still another one, but Utah ends its session in 3 days on Thursday the 10th. So
Awesome.
um, I'm not going to rule it out and say that there's no chance, but there's not much chance that this other tax bill is going to do anything. So hats off to the folks working in Utah
Awesome.
for sticking through it and getting that killed. Well, or at least pretty dead. Um, and then West Virginia, um, and I do have to give a little bit of a shout out, not an endorsement, just an acknowledgement of Delegate Larry Faircloth from West Virginia. That's a delegate, is essentially a representative for those of you in other states who don't know. Um, he's in the West Virginia House,
Mhm.
and he is also a vapor
Mhm.
and came out very strongly against this tax bill, reached out to us to rebroadcast a petition that he had put together,
Mhm.
and has also engaged with a lot of other vapors and advocates in West Virginia and beyond.
Right.
So he is just, I don't know. It seems like a really nice guy and really engaged in this issue. I have heard about him traveling outside of West Virginia to help people. And so that's kind of an interesting development there. If we had some more politicians uh, getting engaged, like Delegate Faircloth,
Right.
um, that could be that's a game changer. But right
Yeah.
now we just have Delegate Faircloth, and anyway,
Mhm.
for all of you other politicians that might be listening out there, be more like Larry. He he is definitely doing the right thing. So yeah, and of course, all that to say, West Virginia, is it HB 420 or SB 420? Hold on, I'm going to get it right. SB Senate Bill 420 was a tax bill. It
Hmm.
is no longer a tax bill.
Nice.
So yeah, that was defeated, and congratulations for everybody that came up and worked on that and got that taken care of.
Awesome.
So now we're on to the really awful stuff.
Oh, good.
California. Um, I am still in. I the California bills are a lot to take in,
Right.
and to some extent, I have been relying in the interest of efficiency. I have been relying on analysis from other people in order
Hmm.
to put together our calls to action. Now, as far as what we put out there goes, we put out very brief and simple explanations of these bills so that when you go to talk about it, you have some very basic talking points to
Right.
use. And so it is, I haven't gone back to check and see what we put out last year, but there's been enough confusion over what these bills actually do
Right.
that there was some inaccuracies circulating.
Okay.
So, but again, essentially what we have put out for the Senate Bill X2-5, that's the Leno bill,
Hmm.
is it is essentially it will subject vapor products to tobacco regulations. It brings them into the Stake Act, and uh, so that does mean indoor use bans.
Right.
There is apparently an exemption in there for vapor shops,
Okay.
but that doesn't make it okay.
No.
And the reason why these bills are flopping around between houses is because they were amended for the most part to include raising the age to purchase to 21.
Right.
So if they weren't bad enough before, now they're tobacco 21 bills. And that's kind of part of the reason why they still have to go through both houses for concurrence and so on.
Right.
And that's why we're seeing more activity than just this is why it didn't actually race. I mean, it is racing through the process, but it would have gone faster if they hadn't amended these bills.
Right.
So, for all intents and purposes, these bills are basically lined up to go straight to the governor's desk.
Oh,
I was looking at an update on SBX 25. I didn't see one, but it will be heard in committee in the Senate at some point.
okay.
Basically, this is just for concurrence purposes to approve the amendments that were made in the Assembly during the special session,
Okay.
and see what happens. The fight's not over. These bills are not law. They're not on the governor's desk. So if you're in California, we have a call to action up right now. Send a message to your senators, and call the governor and
Okay.
urge him to veto this bill.
Okay.
Even if you don't live in California, call the governor. I called the governor when I was standing in Detroit on Friday, and
Hmm.
I simply said, I buy products from California. I do. There are plenty of products on my desk from California.
Right.
And as a consumer, you know, I these bills are going to be bad for what I might have access to. Now, that's not to say Doug Hughes. I'm gonna spin this off to Doug Hughes because he's put up a video. Doug Hughes, for those who don't know, was the former president of Southern California SFATA, and
Right.
one of the co-founders of SoCal SFATA.
Hmm.
And he has put up a video on YouTube, which I'll link to in the description, sort of giving a more detailed explanation of what these bills do. So I'm going to leave it at that and let Doug do the talking because he took the time to do it, and it's an informative video. So um, so yeah, I'll leave that at that. But needless to say, if you live in California, if you don't live in California, if you like stuff that comes from California, take action, call the governor, tell him to veto these bills.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay.
And last but not least, I think last, I always
Okay.
I always feel like I'm leaving something out. Just a quick update for people in Vermont. The No, it is not last because there was another thing I was going to get to.
Okay.
Oh man, pizza, too much pizza is just slowing me down here.
Maybe it's that you've been home 24 hours.
That too. I tell you, all I want to do is watch TV and play video games and just forget. Like, I don't even know if I want to vape anymore. I just want to forget about it all for like maybe for 20 minutes. If I can go 20 minutes without thinking about this stuff, I think I might
Mm-hmm.
feel better. Um, anyway, um, while we're talking about Vermont, Vermont H171, which is the indoor use ban.
Mm-hmm.
This is scheduled for like 2 or 3 more hearings by the end of the week. These are not opportunities for public comment, so don't bother driving down to the state house. You're not going to be heard in this hearing. They're committee discussions.
Okay.
This is still in the House.
Mm-hmm.
It's still working its way through the process. And just so, let me see. I'm checking on when Vermont adjourns. Okay, so Vermont adjourns in May. May 12th is the last day, last scheduled tentative day for Vermont's legislative session. So
Right.
this bill is still in the House. It still has to go to the Senate. If it gets out of this, committee or moves on. But just so everybody knows, the bill is moving, and it's still an opportunity to take action. And in fact, this is a great time for people who haven't sent emails in.
Right.
One of the things that we have talked about in terms of legislative advocacy and consumers reaching out to their lawmakers is this sort of repetition and reminding them over a long period of time. If you have a long period of time,
Right.
take advantage of that. Remind them as
Mm-hmm.
these bills are coming up for a hearing while it's fresh in their mind. They
Right.
are more likely to pay attention to your input.
Mm-hmm.
It's totally working with kind of our human flaws of memory is just a good thing to keep in mind. So
Mm-hmm.
that is that. Indiana.
Okay.
Um, there was talk about a bill 1386, I
Okay.
believe. Um, I have all of this. Yes, it's HB 1386.
Okay.
And this had basically some housekeeping language in it. It clarifies a particular section of that horrible bill that became law last year.
Right.
And uh, it really is just clarification. It is There's a problem with this security company that people have to employ, and that a security company has to have certain certifications. And the way that it was written last year, it sounded like, you know, at least one person on staff at this whatever security company you choose to go with has
Right.
to have this um, special door certification and then like a fire door certification, and that one
Mm-hmm.
person has to have both.
Right.
But they've come back and they've changed that language to say that, well, one person can have this certification and then another person can have the other certification. So
Right.
essentially, it opens up the field of security companies that manufacturers can use to contract with and so on.
Right.
It doesn't make the law substantially more workable.
Right.
It just change some language.
Okay.
So, uh, yeah, I've been, just the past few days have really been trying to kind of get a more comprehensive understanding of what's going on in Indiana because, um, because this bill was so horrible, because it's now law, because there are two lawsuits going on associated with that law. There
Hmm.
has been this tendency to kind of say, okay, well, things are what they are in Indiana, and there's there's just not much for us to do.
Right.
So I'm trying to gain a better understanding of that. I was approached by a few people this weekend, kind of asking what was going on in Indiana, and
Hmm.
a couple of other people that were able to sort of enlighten me. Again, work in progress, and I just kind of wanted to put that out there that um, people really should be paying attention to Indiana a lot more. It's a this effort for states to regulate these products
Okay.
in this way
Hmm.
is this isn't going to be the last of it. A lot of time we focus on the taxes and the place bans and raising the minimum age and child resistant whatever, and
Right.
all of the kind of common things. But the Indiana bill was sort of unique in that it actually went towards manufacturing standards and other things. It intends to be more comprehensive,
Hmm.
and Utah even has gone down that path.
Right.
So going forward, I suspect we're going to see more attempts at this.
Hmm.
And it's just very important, I think, that people understand what has happened this year, what happened last year, and be able to engage with lawmakers so that worst case scenario, we're going to end up with something workable.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, that
yeah.
Indiana thing, the way it, my understanding, the way it's written and the way it stands, it looks to drive 90% of their businesses under.
I don't know what the numbers are, but
I'm only going
it,
just by just things I've seen. I don't really.
yeah, yeah, I don't have a count on it. I can say um, with very, very little confidence, but I can say it that it is possible to meet these regulations, and that's kind of
Kind
the
of.
that's the that's the kicker. Like it's it looks like a de facto ban on the surface, but it's written in such a way, and the options do exist for people to jump through these loopholes, or or not, sorry, not loopholes, hoops.
Oops.
People can jump through the regulatory hoops and get there, but it's yeah, it definitely kind of shuts down that whole thing of like, hey, me and my buddy decided to make e-liquid one day, and now we're gonna open up a vape shop. Like
Yeah.
that is done, and you know, arguably, in some cases, that's not such a bad thing. But it doesn't have to be as extreme, I think, as what Indiana has put forward.
Yeah.
So anyway, enough commentating on that.
Okay.
Again, I'm a little out of my element. The point to bring it up was that, the fight and the analysis and the interest in Indiana, I, I personally feel like I've done a bit of a disservice here, and that I should be a lot more engaged in this, and getting a better understanding for the reasons that I stated before. This is going to happen in other states. It may not
Mhm.
be a carbon copy of this bill, but it will be attempts to regulate the manufacturing process.
Right.
And so this is something that we all need to pay attention to going forward, so we can have more intelligent conversations about it, and
Hmm.
make sure that we get something workable on the other side.
Right.
Um, so uh, yeah, that's that. Yeah, and then tomorrow it's going to be 60 degrees, and mostly mostly sunny skies here in New York.
Nice.
And that is the rosy weather forecast for this evening.
Hey, that doesn't sound like too bad a day.
Nope.
Yeah, that's nice for this time of year up north.
I'll take it.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Are you feeling better?
I am. I'm not sick anymore. I got over my cold before I went to Detroit, so I'm happy about that.
That's very good. It sucks flying when you're sick.
Yeah.
I don't. Do they even let people fly when they're sick anymore? Or?
They do. In fact, it's probably easier to just fly when you're sick. I found that out the hard way.
Yeah.
Um, but uh, but yeah, I decided to take the high road and not infect everybody in the back of the plane with whatever nastiness that I had. So, oh, all right.
All right.
So, yep, that's it for me.
Okay. We will see you next week. Thank
Possibly, I'll be
you.
traveling home next Monday, so
Oh, okay.
I
Uh,
I may or may not make it in time. I'll
okay.
let you know though.
All right. And
All
if we
right,
don't see you the week after that, thank you, Alex.
awesome. Thank you.
Bye.
Night.
Bye.